What's going on, YouTube? This is PhDarien. I got no PhD, but depends on who you ask. I got a PhD. I'm going to get into this video from a YouTube channel called Revolt. Caught my attention, one of the suggested videos I had. Should more black people buy guns for protection? Question mark. The heated debate. I'm very curious to see this. I didn't even know there was a debate. So let's watch it together, and my reaction, your reaction, will be down in the comment section. So, if you're ready, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Revolt Black News. I'm your host, Ebony K. Williams. Now, recently, all of our timelines have been flooded with mass shootings and the histories of these events in our country. But today we're going to have a broader, larger conversation about gun ownership in the black community and exactly where this effort to protect ourselves comes from. Later on in the show, Tanya Christian is going to moderate a panel on the anti-gun perspective. But we're going to start things off with a roundtable on the pro-gun point of view. Joining me is co-founder of Redstone Firearms, which is a federal firearms dealer in Southern California, Ms. Geneva Solomon. Also with us is rapper, political activist, and founder of Black Guns Matter, Maj Toure. Welcome.
Maj Toure, for sure, I've heard of. I haven't heard of the other one from SoCal. I wish I would have known about that while I was still stationed where I'm from, which is San Diego. But I guess this is for the pro-gun, conservative type viewpoint of guns. Let's see if they hit on the same talking points everyone has.
Out to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So listen, here at Revolt Black News, obviously we talk a whole lot about Black Lives Matter. Maj, I want to start with you. Your organization is Black Guns Matter. So can you tell us a little bit about what implored you to set up that organization and nonprofit?
Well, one, you just keep seeing guys catch the same possession charge. You go to Detroit, you go to LA, you go to, everywhere. Guys are getting arrested for simple possession. We're not talking about guys, and some of them are your friends. We're not talking about guys that, have, robbed somebody or killed somebody, just missing information. So that was the impetus for starting Black Guns Matter. And during that time in 2016, kind of like, this go around on the election cycle, we were seeing a lot of, uprising and civil unrest. But you can't say Black Lives Matter and not have the means to protect Black life. And I think some people have the misconception that, Black Guns Matter is somehow running contrary to the concept of Black Lives Mattering.
I completely agree right there, brother. So what he just said, saying Black Guns Matter, some people think that it is in counter distinction to Black Lives Matter. And while I don't know what he's going to say next, I can tell you right now, Black lives do matter, just like the rest of them do. There isn't an emphasis on Black lives until the Black community itself, we detach head from ass and we decide to take care and police our own. There's a really, there are talking points that you can say, and I even noticed too, all of my non-Black friends, whenever topics like this come up, they really do have an opinion, but they don't share it in front of me because they think I'm going to get offended. And that is exactly why things never get changed, because you're afraid to offend somebody. If the truth hurts, it's just supposed to hurt, right? If they say, well, if you guys stop killing each other, then maybe there's like, okay, get it off your chest. Let me know what you really think. I've been protecting myself for a minute before Black Lives Matter. And trip on this, I got pissed off the first time I tried to Google San Diego BLM. It was the Bureau of Land Management. I was looking for some areas, and Black Lives Matter chapter just popped up there, and that was the rest of it. So either way, I'm going to continue.
And I think with the racist roots of gun control in this nation, it's very important that Black people do not outsource their security and rely on the government for that. So we just wanted to put together something from a holistic perspective of conflict resolution, de-escalation, arming the people and informing them about safe and responsible gun ownership where it's needed the most.
Fantastic. Now, Maj, speaking of, you brought up the stigmas and really kind of some of the false narratives about Black gun ownership running contrary to Black Lives Matter, and we're going to get straight to that right now. Now, we all know in this conversation that there's a lot of narrative, some of which is very false, about Black gun ownership and how gun ownership in general can make us all unsafe. Can you both, starting with you, Geneva, give us a sense of correcting some of those misconceptions?
I thought black gun ownership was on the rise. Legal black gun ownership. I know a lot of black people who had a lot of guns, not legally. And that is another problem because once you now possess illegally and then you get arrested for having an illegal firearm, you're now a felon. And now you can't even own a firearm now. So you're taking yourself out of the possible black gun owner demographic versus the short amount of people who are in it.
About black gun ownership and the safety of black communities.
You know, a lot of the falsehoods that you hear is that having a gun makes you unsafe. Can that be true?
Nope.
Possibly, but we don't believe in that if you are going about it the right way. If you're going out there and you're just getting a gun and you bring it home and there's no conversations with the children in the home, if that's the case, or the family members of that home, and talking about that firearm and knowing that they have the education if they stumble upon a gun when you're not around, that can make it unsafe. So that's what the work that we do is we're going out into the community, we're going in our firearm store and we're doing classes to make sure that that education is there, so that, you know, that narrative can go away.
Okay, I love what she just said right there. We're going around our community and we're giving people classes and giving them the education. Education, like we've all heard, the knowledge is power, and that is so true. If you want to disarm somebody, take away their knowledge of that topic first. That is a classic way throughout history of disarming the populace, is break down their mentality when it comes to education as to why you even have that. It's always seen as an offensive weapon, not even defensive. But when you have somebody break down a gun, clean it, lubricate it, see how it works, actually use it, shoot it, and you notice like, okay, yeah, it has a little bit of kick, or it has this, it's loud. One reason I have silencers is because even me, when I shoot suppressed or unsuppressed, I can tell the difference, not just in the sound, the signature I'm getting, but mainly the faster follow-up shots I can get because I'm not having to have a sensory overload with the sound, the flash, the bang, all of that. It's like, nope, it's just like pew, 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 right? Try that. And those are some things that I think will help, is to get people out there and educate them so they can understand when they're being hoodwinked and hoodooed by the news media.
Responsible gun ownership does exist in our communities. It is something that we take seriously, and we're not out here to just put guns in people's hands and say, okay, you're good to go. That's the falsehood that needs to be changed.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Geneva's saying in regards to, you know, this misconception that, you know, as we're going to arm people to protect themselves against bad people, legitimate bad people, and or corrupt portions of the state, right? Because agents of the state at certain times, obviously they're humans and they're not perfect. Somehow that means like we cool with the killer, like Tupac said, like we just want guns and we want danger and we.
Yeah, I absolutely hate hearing that as a black person, that when they say take care of yourself, or you guys don't ever tell the police because you want to protect the killer. No, I don't. Maybe I just don't know who he is. And before I jump the gun and accuse somebody who looks like me when there's already enough of that, get the facts straight. Now, though, I will also say this too. There are a lot of people who know who killed whoever, and they're too quiet. Now, they do have their own, they have the right to, you know, their own privacy. If they don't want to get involved, they don't have to get involved. But then I tell you this, stay your ass at home and don't vote for another freaking idiot liberal that's going to make it even worse than it is right now.
And that's the worst thing. And that misconception isn't actually a misconception. It's designed that way. It's designed to make sure that our communities look like, they just want to be unsafe. Because let's be perfectly honest, gun control is racist, flat out, all of it. You know, you can't run something like that has a history in the slave codes and then run contrary to, you know, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And then where there's the most black people, put the most infringements. You know, so that's kind of like tricking people into convincing them out of their own rights in that regard. That's by design. That's not an accident.
Ooh wee. All right, cool. So what he just said, I'm going to speak on it real quick. Gun control is racist by its very design. That is very, very true from some of the research I've done in the past few years. Not wanting to arm a certain group of citizens, they put up a lot of red tape to make it very impossible for somebody who didn't have the education, the status, the financial means to go out and purchase said firearms. Even right now, the way people have cars, like there are more people who get killed by cars, but there are more people who buy cars than there are firearms. And you don't have to prove to anybody that you know what you're doing with that thing. I can go right now to a dealership as long as I have the money, right, and just buy a vehicle. They don't say, let me see you drive it first.
Nope.
Let me see you do this first.
Nope.
Okay, great. Here you go. They're like, you got the money? Here, you can buy it. But when it comes to firearms, yes, that same thing applies, but then a lot of states will actually say you need to take a test, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to beep first, then you need to bop second. And you're like, wait, why? Especially me, right? I've been told so many times, hey, you need to do all of this stuff that the state requires or the city, and that they have that right to do that. But I do not have to prove to you a right. Right? Driving is a privilege. Gun ownership is a right. I didn't do anything to violate or lose my right to gun ownership. I could do that for a driver's license, but not for, well, I could also do it for whatever it's called, gun ownership. Although I completely think that's a completely different topic too. If I do something that deserves death, then just give me death, but don't let me go and then say you can't do that. That's another problem in our country.
But it is incorrect tremendously. And I think the last thing too is just making sure that we're not having this conversation from a place of fear. We're not having this conversation, you're going to go buy all of these guns because you're scared of Biden, you're scared of Trump. That's not the thing. Americans, black Americans, have had a solid history with firearms ownership. We have fought in every single war for this nation, and we got a rich tradition of firearms heritage. So that kind of runs in tandem. You know, we can break that falsehood that we're not safe and haven't had firearms by knowing the historical context.
But a lot of people say that are anti-gun positions say that the firearm access has become too convenient.
On the streets it is. I see where people get their information from because firearms aren't as convenient as they once were. I think they are more stringent now than they were even 10 years ago. And I've owned firearms for a while. I can tell you, my experience doesn't trump the rest of the nation and data that is found by either the CDC, the FBI, all the other alphabet soup agencies, military stats, whatever it may be. And yes, I understand my demographic specifically this may not apply to me as much as it does for someone else. But guns are, you go to a gun store, yes, you can buy it, but you can't just buy it like you bought a phone charger and then just walk out. Not only that, the level of crimes are based on hate, and hate is a sin. We don't ever talk about the issue, we talk about a lot of the symptoms of the issue. Man's problem is sin. S-I-N. It is not G-U-N. Man's problem is S-I-N. You can give a whole bunch of people a whole bunch of firearms. They will do nothing with them but polish them, shoot them, have fun with them, take them out. That's it. You give a man that's heart is full of hate, and then you give him that, well, then now you're in for another completely different subject. And while black people tend to be the most self-hated group and self-loved, right? We can love ourselves, as individuals more, but we can hate ourselves amongst each other as a group. And that's just, right? So, of course, we have these three people on here right now with Black News from Revolt. I've never seen, if I can be mistaken, I've never seen this YouTube channel at all. They probably have a lot of good stuff on here. She looks familiar, Ebony K. Williams, from, I don't know, is she a model? Actress or something? Or just a TV news personality, news anchor? I don't know. But she does look familiar. So either way, what Geneva Solomon said earlier and what Maj Touré said, I agree with. That doesn't mean that we're in an echo chamber. They may not agree with my style of firearms, my stance, my level of training, how to train, who should be trained. But the conversation, I mean, apparently it gets into a heated debate. If I see something on the debate, then I'll go ahead and pop it in the video.
Can you kind of reconcile the I don't know, the kind of hijacking of this notion of what's convenient and what's not, and share a bit of your personal experience if you can?
Yeah, I can tell you that if anyone on the anti-gun side went to buy a gun for the first time last year in the state of California, their mind was blown, because we had people from celebrity clients to people who were totally anti-gun asking to pay more money to bypass the process. Because here in the state of California, you may see articles that says it's easy as going to get a gun out of a vending machine. And that's not the case. You have to have money, for one, because there's a lot of fees associated with that. Two, you have to take a test and pass it. You have to have a
Yep, I think she was about to say license. That's exactly my point. Buying a gun is not a problem. Affording a gun is a problem. And then affording the ammunition is a bigger problem. And affording the training is the largest of them all. Because buying a gun is just like buying a hammer, and then you don't even have nails. So it's like, what's that hammer good for? You don't have nails to nail in, and you don't have any nails to take out with the other part of the hammer on the other side. And so, like she's saying, in California, which is where I actually built the majority of my AR-15s and bought firearms there, it is very difficult to obtain a firearm there. And like she's saying, you have even celebrity clients and people who kind of want to bypass the system and, oh, I don't want anybody to know I have it. Why not? I guess it's not until you need a firearm that you understand the passion of those who have them. Some of them are just honestly, they're just enjoyable. They're just really fun tools, right? I have more than one skateboard. I actually have more than one vehicle. I have more than one firearm. Matter of fact, I have 3 freaking lights right now for the studio. 4. 3 that are on. And I've got multiple microphones. I've got multiple devices. I've got more than one magazine for my firearms. And people think, well, why do you need that? It's like, well, because that's what I chose to do based on my own personal TTPs. And what she's saying right now is you have to take a test. I never knew you had to take a test for it until I was in California. And I was like, why do I have to take a test to prove myself with a firearm? Now, it is a deadly weapon, and I understand that. You don't want any and everybody walking around without having any clue. Now, gun ranges, specifically, sometimes they'll have you take a test. It'll be on file for you, and you have to do it annually to make sure you understand their ceasefire things and notions and where to go with the firing line, the ready line, all those things, how guns work. And that's their own overhead protection. So you can't come in there, act a fool, and then say, well, I had no clue. You taking that test tells them where you are, and then, sure enough, now if you go out there and goon something up, then essentially you did it on purpose. You didn't do it in ignorance. That's what the test is for.
License, so to speak, and then you have to wait 10 days. And California will prevent you from buying a firearm even if you have a delinquent speeding ticket.
What?
So when someone says that it is so easy to get a firearm, I would actually challenge them to walk through what that process really looks like, because their mind would be blown. And so they're speaking from a place of ignorance and something that they maybe have read, or like a headline that was maybe fear-mongering, because that is not the truth.
Listen, we appreciate that, y'all. Geneva Maj, wow, dropping important gems that can hopefully avail some people to their own self-protection in this much-needed climate. Thank y'all for the conversation and the...
Oh, I guess that ends that. I don't know. I thought there was more to it. I guess there's going to be more of a heated debate later. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and skip this freaking big old doofus ad.
Welcome back to Revolt Black News. It's Tanya Christian here, leading a conversation on the gun debate. Now, earlier,
Negative.
we moderated a conversation from the pro-gun perspective. So we're now bringing in the anti-gun side.
Alright, so I'll go ahead and stop it there and do a part 2. That's the pros. So what I get out of the pros are, well, at least the 2 pro-gun owners, or, the people who own their own tactical company, firearm stores, things like that. They see what many people don't see. right? Since they're on the other end of it. So there's a lot of fees associated with buying a firearm. You have your background check that you pay for, and the dealership is just charging you for, right? It's called a dross, or a dealer's record of sale. They are upcharging you clearly the price of the firearm, or whatever it may be. The excise tax, right? I think it's 11%. So you buy a $1,000 firearm, you're going to pay 11% off of that. So think about that. That's 100. I mean, yeah, that's $100, $110. And I mean, why? Why pay that much more? It's because, you know, government bureaucracy, a lot of overhead, a lot of red tape, a lot of corruption. And they understand that, and they say, wow, you guys are making it a pain in the butt to own a firearm. This is not an easy process like a lot of people say it is. It's actually much harder. It is easy for me to have a lot of firearms because I'm skipping the middleman. I am the middleman. I make my own dang firearms. And I know a lot of people say, well, why did you do that? It's like, well, why not? I don't have to wait 10 days. I think, like she mentioned in California, you have to wait 10 days after you purchase a firearm. Who buys a car and then you gotta wait 10 days to go drive it off the lot? So once again, yeah, I mentioned this before in another video. If you haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and try and post it somewhere about why 80% lowers. I actually do use 80% lowers, and it's because of that very reason. If I was in California or a state that restricts the time frame for me to buy as to pick up, it would suck for me. Either way, hopefully you like part 1 of the video. Click around, stay tuned for part 2, and we'll get back to it. It's PhDarien, and I'm out. Peace.